ballroom glittered like a treasure chest. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, throwing light across marble floors. Women in designer dresses laughed softly, their jewelry catching every beam. Men in expensive suits spoke in hushed tones about money and power. This wasn't just any party. This was where the elite gathered, where deals were made with handshakes and secrets were traded like currency. Amara wiped down a table in the corner, her black uniform playing against all the silk and diamonds. She'd been working at the Grand Meridian Hotel for 3 months now, serving champagne to people who spent more on shoes than she made in a year. She didn't mind. The job paid her bills and let her send money home to her younger brother. She wasn't supposed to be in the main ballroom tonight, but 2 servers had called in sick and the manager was desperate. So here she was, invisible among the powerful, just another face in the background. Then the room changed. It started as whispers, then silence. Amara looked up from the glass she was polishing. Everyone had turned toward the entrance. Even the music seemed to lower itself in respect. The mafia boss walked in. Amara had heard stories. Everyone had. He controlled half the city's underground operations, owned legitimate businesses that made millions, and had connections that reached into government offices. People feared him. People respected him. Nobody crossed him twice. He moved through the crowd like a king through his kingdom, tall, sharp-featured, with eyes that missed nothing. His black suit probably cost more than Amara's entire apartment. 2 bodyguards followed him, but he didn't need them. His presence alone commanded attention. Women straightened their postures. Men nodded in greeting. Everyone wanted to be noticed by him. Everyone wanted to matter. The mafia boss's eyes swept across the room, taking in faces, measuring worth, calculating value. This was his world. These were his people. Then his gaze landed on Amara. She froze, glass still in her hand. Amara's heart hammered against her ribs. She wanted to look away, but couldn't. The mafia boss's eyes held hers for what felt like forever, but was probably only seconds. Then he moved on, greeting a businessman near the bar. She exhaled slowly. Just a glance. Nothing more. The evening continued. Amara served drinks, cleared plates, and stayed invisible. That's how she survived in places like this. Don't stand out. Don't cause problems. Do your job and go home. But she felt eyes on her. Multiple pairs. Some curious. Some calculating. Some cold. A woman in a red dress watched her with particular interest. Victoria Ashford. Amara knew her name because everyone did. She came from old money, the kind that opened doors and closed mouths. She'd been photographed with the mafia boss at charity events, always positioned just close enough to suggest connection without claiming ownership. Victoria wasn't watching Amara with curiosity. She was watching with assessment, like a predator sizing up competition. But Amara wasn't competition. She was a waitress. She cleared tables and smiled politely and disappeared into the background. That's all, except the mafia boss looked at her again. This time, he was across the room, listening to a politician drone on about tax regulations. His eyes found Amara as she balanced a tray of empty glasses. Their gazes met. He didn't smile, didn't nod, just looked. Amara's hands trembled slightly. She turned away, heading toward the kitchen. Careful, whispered Jade, another server. You don't want that kind of attention. I'm not trying to get any attention, Amara replied. Doesn't matter what you're trying. Matters what he's noticing. Amara pushed through the kitchen doors, grateful for the noise and heat and chaos that let her breathe normally again. She wasn't here to get noticed. She was here to work. But when she returned to the ballroom 20 minutes later, the mafia boss was standing near her station, speaking quietly with an associate. He didn't need to be there. There were dozens of other places in the room. Yet there he was. Coincidence. Had to be. By the end of the night, Amara's feet ached and her smile felt painted on. The party was winding down. Important people were leaving in expensive cars, off to other important places. She was cleaning up champagne flutes when the manager approached her. Amara, someone wants to speak with you. Her stomach dropped. Who? The manager's expression was unreadable. Just come with me. They walked through the emptying ballroom, past the remaining staff breaking down tables. The manager led her to a private lounge area Amara had only seen from a distance. It was smaller than the main room, but somehow more intimidating. Leather furniture, dark wood, quiet power. The mafia boss stood by the window, looking out at the city lights. "I'll leave you to it," the manager said quickly, disappearing before Amara could protest. Silence filled the space between them. Amara's mind raced. Had she done something wrong? Offended someone? Was she about to lose her job, or worse? You didn't try to impress me," the mafia boss said finally, still facing the window. His voice was smooth, controlled. Everyone else in that room was performing. You were just working. Amara wasn't sure if that was a compliment or criticism. "I'm just a server, sir. I do my job." "Exactly." He turned to face her. Up close. His features were sharper, his presence even more overwhelming. "Do you know who I am?" "Yes, sir." "Does it scare you?" Amara considered lying, but something told her he'd know. A little. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. Not quite a smile, but close. "Honesty. That's rare. Can I ask why I'm here?" "You can ask." She waited, but he didn't elaborate. The silence stretched. Amara's training told her to stay quiet, to wait for dismissal. But her curiosity was stronger. "So, why am I here?" "Because I'm choosing you," he said simply. "Choosing me for what?" "To accompany me to events. To be seen with me. To exist in my world for a while." Amara's confusion must have shown because he continued. "I need someone authentic. Someone who isn't playing games or angling for position. Someone who won't perform." His eyes held hers. "You'll be compensated generously. Your job here will be held. And when this arrangement ends, you'll walk away with enough money to change your life." "I don't understand." "Why me?" "Because everyone else wants to be chosen. You don't." Amara didn't sleep that night. She lay in her small apartment, staring at the ceiling, replaying the conversation. The mafia boss had given her 3 days to decide. 3 days to choose whether to step into a world she didn't understand for money she desperately needed. Her brother's medical bills were piling up. Student loans hung over her head like storm clouds. The electricity had been shut off twice last month. This money could solve everything. But nothing was ever that simple. She thought about Victoria Ashford's cold stare, about the whispers that would follow, about what it meant to be seen with someone like the mafia boss. On the second day, she called her best friend, Nia. "Girl, are you serious right now?" Nia's voice crackled through the phone. "The actual mafia boss?" "I know how it sounds. It sounds dangerous. It sounds like you're about to walk into something you can't walk out of." He said the arrangement would end, that I'd be compensated and protected. "And you believe him?" Amara didn't answer right away. "I don't know what I believe, but I know my brother needs surgery. I know I'm drowning in debt. I know this could change everything. Or destroy everything," Nia countered. "Those people, Amara, they don't play by normal rules. You can't just dip your toe in their world and come back clean. What else am I supposed to do?" The question hung in the air. They both knew the answer. Struggle. Keep struggling. Hope something changed before everything collapsed. On the third day, Amara returned to the hotel. The mafia boss was waiting in the same private lounge. He didn't ask if she'd decided. He already knew. "I have conditions," Amara said, surprised by the steadiness in her voice. "Name them." "I want everything in writing. The terms, the timeline, the compensation. I want to know exactly what I'm agreeing to." "Done. And if I want out, if something feels wrong, I can leave." He studied her for a long moment. "You can leave. But understand that once you're my world, even for a day, people will remember. They'll judge. They'll make assumptions. I understand. Do you?" He stepped closer. "This isn't a fairy tale. Amara, I'm not choosing you because I'm in love. I'm choosing you because you serve a purpose. Don't confuse business with romance." His words were harsh, but Amara appreciated the honesty. "I'm not confused." "Good." He handed her an envelope. Inside is a contract. Read it carefully. Sign it if you agree. Your first event is in 5 days. The contract was straightforward. 6 months. Public appearances at specified events. Maintain professional behavior. Compensation paid monthly. With a substantial bonus at completion. Confidentiality agreement. Exit clause that required 2 weeks' notice. Amara signed it. The first event was a charity gala. A stylist arrived at her apartment with dresses, shoes, and jewelry that cost more than her yearly salary. The woman worked efficiently, transforming Amara from invisible server to someone who could stand beside the most powerful man in the room. Head up, the stylist instructed. Shoulders back. You're not serving anymore. You're present. Amara practiced in the mirror. The woman staring back looked confident, elegant, expensive, but inside, her stomach churned with anxiety. The mafia boss picked her up in a black car with tinted windows. He looked at her once, nodded approval, and said nothing else during the drive. The gala was everything Amara expected and feared. Cameras flashed. People whispered. Eyes followed them everywhere. The mafia boss kept his hand on the small of her back, a gesture that looked protective but felt possessive. Victoria Ashford was there, in a dress that probably required a team of engineers to construct. Her smile was perfect and poisonous. How interesting, Victoria said when they crossed paths near the cocktail table. I didn't realize we were taking charity cases, so literally now. The mafia boss's expression didn't change. Victoria, I'm just surprised. Usually your taste runs more established. My choices are my own, he replied coolly. Victoria's eyes slid to Amara. Of course. I hope you enjoy your moment, dear. They tend to be brief. She glided away, leaving tension in her wake. Ignore her, the mafia boss said quietly. I planned to. But ignoring Victoria proved harder than expected. Throughout the night, Amara felt dozens of eyes watching, judging, calculating. Women who looked like Victoria, who moved in the same circles, who had probably harbored their own hopes about the mafia boss. By the end of the evening, Amara's smile felt like a mask she couldn't remove. The mafia boss drove her home in silence. You did well, he said as the car stopped outside her building. Thank you. This won't get easier. You understand that? Amara nodded. I understand. Good. The next event is Friday. Same time. He drove away, leaving Amara standing on the sidewalk in a dress worth thousands, feeling more alone than she had in years. The attack started small. A coffee, accidentally, spilled on her coat. Invitations to events withdrawn at the last minute. Whispers that followed her through rooms like smoke. Amara had expected jealousy. What surprised her was the coordination. These women didn't just dislike her. They were actively working to push her out. Victoria led the charge, but she wasn't alone. Isabel Lauren, Helena Park, Simone Cross, women with money, influence, and scores to settle. They'd all positioned themselves near the mafia boss at various points. They'd all been passed over. Don't let them see you sweat. Nia advised over coffee. That's what they want. I'm not here to compete with them, Amara said. Doesn't matter. They think you are. The second event was worse than the first. Amara arrived at a gallery opening to find herself seated at a table far from the mafia boss, surrounded by women who spoke to each other as if she didn't exist. When she stood to use the restroom, someone's heel accidentally came down on her dress, tearing the hem. Oh, how clumsy of me, Helena said with mock concern. I hope that wasn't expensive. Oh, wait. Of course it was. Everything he buys is expensive. Amara bit back a response and walked away with her head high. But inside, anger burned. The mafia boss noticed. He always noticed. You're handling them well, he said later, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Am I supposed to handle them differently? Most people would fight back, make scenes. You just absorb it. Fighting back is what they want. It would give them ammunition. He looked at her with something that might have been respect. You're smarter than I thought. Should I be offended by that? Probably. Despite everything, Amara almost smiled. The mafia boss wasn't warm, but he wasn't cruel either. He was exactly what he'd promised to be, honest about the transaction between them. But honesty didn't stop the third anonymous note that appeared under her apartment door that week. You don't belong in his world. Leave before you're forced out. Amara crumpled the paper and threw it away. She'd signed a contract. She'd made a choice. She wasn't leaving because of threats from jealous women who couldn't handle rejection, though part of her wondered if staying was bravery or stupidity. 3 months into the arrangement, Amara had adapted to the strange double life. By day, she still worked at the hotel, maintaining normalcy. By evening, she transformed into someone who attended galas and charity events and private dinners with people who controlled the city's power structure. The mafia boss was true to his word. The money arrived monthly. Her brother's surgery was scheduled. Her debts were shrinking, but the hostility was growing. Victoria had escalated from verbal jabs to social sabotage. Amara's name was mysteriously missing from guest lists. Photographers were instructed to crop her out of photos. Invitations arrived with wrong addresses or incorrect dates. She's trying to erase you, Jade observed. They become unlikely friends, bonding over late-night shift meals. She can't erase me. I'm under contract. Contract doesn't stop her from making your life miserable. Amara couldn't argue with that, but she also couldn't afford to care. Every difficult evening brought her closer to financial freedom. Every whispered insult was worth the stability waiting at the end. Then the mafia boss broke his own pattern. I need you to come somewhere different tomorrow, he said after an event. What kind of different? Family dinner. Amara's surprise must have shown. You have family dinners? Once a month. My mother insists. He looked almost uncomfortable. She wants to meet you. Why? Because she saw us in photographs and started asking questions. He paused. You can say no. This isn't in the contract. Amara thought about it. Meeting his mother felt personal, and they carefully maintained professional distance. But curiosity won. I'll come. The dinner was at a private residence in the hills, far from the city's noise. The mafia boss's mother was elegant, sharp-eyed, and immediately intimidating. So you're the girl everyone's talking about, she said in accented English, studying Amara over tea. I suppose I am. My son doesn't usually bring anyone to family dinner. I'm aware this is unusual. The mother smiled slightly. I like that you're honest. Most girls who chase my son are full of pretty lies. I'm not chasing your son, ma'am. We have a business arrangement. I know about the arrangement. What I'm curious about is why you accepted it. Amara met her gaze directly. Because I needed the money. My brother needs medical care I can't afford. This opportunity solved my problems. Most people would dress that answer up with prettier words. Most people aren't sitting across from you right now. The mother laughed, a genuine sound that softened her intimidating presence. I see why he chose you. You're not performing. The evening continued with surprising ease. The mafia boss's mother asked about Amara's life, her family, her plans. She listened with real interest, not the fake attention Amara had grown used to at events. As they left, the mother pulled Amara aside. Be careful, she said quietly. The women my son rejected are dangerous. They have pride and resources and nothing to lose. Watch your back. I will. And Amara? The mother's eyes were serious. Don't confuse a protection for affection. My son is good at business, less good at feelings. Amara nodded, filing away the warning with all the others she collected. The sabotage reached a new level 2 weeks later. Amara arrived at a corporate fundraiser to find her name flagged at security. According to their system, she'd been banned for disruptive behavior at a previous event. There's been a mistake, Amara said calmly, though rage simmered beneath her composure. I'm sorry, ma'am, but... Let her through. The mafia boss appeared, his voice cutting through confusion like a blade. Now! Security scrambled to comply. Inside, the mafia boss pulled her aside. Who did this? Does it matter? They're all working together now. His jaw tightened. It matters. I can handle it. You shouldn't have to. That statement hung between them. For the first time, the arrangement felt like something more than business, like he actually cared whether she was humiliated. But then Victoria appeared with Isabel and Helena, all three dressed to kill and wearing matching smirks. "Oh, good, you made it," Victoria purred. "I heard there was some confusion at the door. How embarrassing." "Not as embarrassing as trying to ban someone and failing," Amara replied evenly. Victoria's smile sharpened. "Careful, dear. You're swimming with sharks now. One mistake, and you'll drown. Good thing I learned to swim in deep waters before I met any of you." The words came out before Amara could stop them. She'd broken her own rule about not engaging, but she was tired of being pushed and prodded and treated like prey. Helena's eyes gleamed with malice. "So the little server has claws. How delightful." "Ladies," the mafia boss said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Walk away." They did, but not before Victoria leaned close to Amara and whispered, "This isn't over." The evening proceeded tensely. Amara felt eyes on her constantly, waiting for her to slip, to react, to give them ammunition. She kept her composure through sheer willpower. But later, in the car, she finally broke. "I'm not weak," she said suddenly. "I know how to fight. I just thought staying calm was the right strategy." It is. Then why do I feel like I'm losing? The mafia boss was quiet for a long moment. "Because you're fighting alone. That changes now." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I'm done watching them circle you like prey. This was supposed to be a simple arrangement. They've made it war, so we respond accordingly. I don't want you to fight my battles." "I'm not. I'm fighting my own. They've disrespected something that's mine." The possessiveness in his tone should have bothered Amara. Instead, it felt like relief, like finally having backup after months of standing alone. The counterattack was subtle but devastating. Within a week, Victoria found herself quietly removed from several charity boards. Helena's company lost major contracts without explanation. Isabel's family business faced sudden regulatory scrutiny. Nothing could be traced back to the mafia boss. But everyone knew. "You didn't have to do that," Amara said when they met for coffee, an unusual occurrence outside their scheduled events. "Yes, I did." "Why?" He studied her for a long moment. "Because somewhere in this arrangement, you stopped being just a contract. You became someone I respect." "Someone He paused, as if the words were difficult. "Someone I don't want to see hurt." Amara's heart did something complicated in her chest. That wasn't part of the deal. No, it wasn't. They sat in silence, both aware that the carefully maintained boundaries between them had shifted. What started as business was becoming something neither had planned for. "What happens when the 6 months end?" Amara asked quietly. "I don't know." "You always know. That's who you are." Apparently not with you. The confession hung in the air between them, heavy with implications neither was ready to fully explore. But Victoria wasn't finished. If anything, the consequences had made her more determined. She couldn't hurt the mafia boss directly, but she could destroy his reputation by destroying Amara's. The rumors started carefully. Amara was using him for money. Amara was cheating on him with other men. Amara was pregnant and trying to trap him. Each lie was crafted to sound plausible, whispered in the right ears, spread through social media with carefully edited photos. "They're escalating," Nia warned. "This isn't just petty jealousy anymore." "I know. So, what are you going to do?" Amara thought about running. The contract had an exit clause. She could take what she'd earned and disappear. But leaving felt like admitting defeat, like letting Victoria win. And somewhere along the way, this had stopped being just about money. "I'm going to finish what I started," Amara said firmly. The final 3 months of the contract felt like walking through a battlefield. Every event was a test. Every conversation was potentially weaponized. Every photo was analyzed for signs of weakness. But Amara had learned to navigate this world. She knew when to speak and when to stay silent. She knew which battles to fight and which to ignore. She'd stop being the scared waitress and become someone who could stand in rooms full of power without flinching. The mafia boss watched her transformation with something that looked like pride. "You've adapted well," he said after a particularly tense charity auction where Victoria had tried and failed to embarrass her. I had good motivation. Money, at first. Now it's more about not letting them win. He smiled, a real smile that transformed his usually serious face. That's a dangerous reason. Why? Because it means you care. And caring makes you vulnerable. Amara knew he was right. She'd started this arrangement with clear emotional boundaries. She was doing a job. Nothing more. But boundaries had a way of blurring when you spent months beside someone, learning their patterns, understanding their thoughts, seeing past the powerful exterior to the person underneath. What about you, she asked. Do you care? The question was bold, maybe too bold, but they were past pretending. Yes, he said simply, more than I should. What are we going to do about that? I don't know. The contract ends in 3 months. After that, he trailed off. After that, I'm supposed to walk away with my money and my life unchanged. Except nothing's unchanged, is it? No. They were in his car, parked outside her building. The space felt too small and too intimate. Amara knew she should leave, should maintain professional distance that had kept her safe. But instead, she stayed. I'm scared, she admitted. Not of them. Of this. Of what happens when business becomes something else. So am I. The confession surprised her. The mafia boss wasn't supposed to be scared. He was supposed to be invincible. Your mother warned me, Amara said. She said not to confuse protection for affection. My mother doesn't know everything. Doesn't she? He reached out, his hand cupping her face with unexpected gentleness. Stay, when the contract ends. Not because I'm paying you, because you want to. Amara's breath caught. You're asking me to choose you. Really choose you. Yes, that's different. That's real. I know. She pulled back, needing space to think. I need time. You have 3 months. But 3 months felt like both forever and no time at all. Victoria made her final move with 6 weeks left on the contract. She'd been quiet for too long, which meant she was planning something big. The attack came at the annual Winter Gala, the biggest society event of the year. Everyone who mattered would be there. Every camera, every reporter, every influential person who shaped opinions and controlled narratives. Amara arrived with a mafia boss, wearing a dress designed specifically for this event. She'd learned to move through these spaces with confidence, to hold conversations with people who used to intimidate her. Everything seemed normal until the speeches began. Victoria took the microphone during the charity appeals, her smile bright and deadly. Before we continue, I feel it's important to address something that's been weighing on my conscience. Amara's stomach dropped. We've all noticed the mafia boss's new companion. Sweet girl. Very different from his usual type. Victoria's tone was sugary poison. What many of you don't know is that she's been accepting gifts and money from multiple gentlemen during their arrangement. I have receipts, photos, even messages. Gasps rippled through the crowd. All eyes turned to Amara. The accusation was a lie, a complete fabrication. But Victoria had always been good at making lies look like truth. The mafia boss's hand tightened on Amara's arm. His fury was palpable but controlled. Careful, Victoria. I'm just sharing facts. The people deserve to know who's taking advantage of your generosity. Amara's mind raced. She could defend herself, but anything she said would sound desperate. She could stay silent. But silence looked like guilt. Then she remembered something. A conversation months ago, when Victoria had been particularly nasty at a private dinner. Amara had been recording notes on her phone about the event details. She'd accidentally captured Victoria talking to Helena, admitting their plan to sabotage Amara by any means necessary. I'd like to see these receipts, Amara said calmly, pulling out her phone. And while you're gathering them, everyone here should hear what you said about your plans for me 3 months ago. She played the recording. Victoria's voice filled the quiet room. We need to destroy her credibility. Make up whatever we have to. Fake photos, false witnesses, I don't care. She needs to be humiliated and gone. The room exploded into whispers. Victoria's face drained of color. That's out of context, she stammered. Is it? Amara felt surprisingly calm. Because it sounds pretty clear to me. You've been orchestrating a campaign against me from the beginning, not because I did anything wrong, because you're jealous. You're nobody, a waitress who got lucky. Maybe, but at least I'm honest about who I am. The Mafia Boss stepped forward, his voice cutting through the chaos. Victoria, you're no longer welcome at any event I attend. Spread your lies elsewhere. Security moved in, escorting a protesting Victoria toward the exit. Helena and Isabel followed quickly, not wanting to be associated with the disaster. The gala continued, but the energy had shifted. People looked at Amara with new respect. She'd stood her ground. She'd fought back. She'd won. Later, in the car, the Mafia Boss was quiet. You recorded that conversation, he finally said. Insurance. I learned early that evidence matters more than truth in your world. Smart. I've been paying attention. He looked at her with something that might have been admiration, or maybe something deeper. Stay, when the contract ends. Not for money, not for protection. Stay because you want to. Amara met his eyes. Ask me again when the 6 months are up. Let me finish this on my terms. And then we'll see what's real and what was just business. The final month passed quickly. Victoria had been effectively exiled from their social circle. Without her leadership, the other women's attacks lost coordination and intensity. Amara could finally breathe, but breathing meant thinking. And thinking meant confronting the question that had been growing louder every day. What did she want? The money was secure. Her brother's surgery was scheduled and paid for. Her debts were gone. Everything she'd needed when she signed the contract had been achieved. So why did the thought of leaving make her chest ache? You're in love with him, Nia said matter-of-factly over dinner. I'm not. Girl, you literally just spent 5 minutes describing how he smiles differently now and how he remembered your coffee order. That's love. It's familiarity. We've spent months together. It's love. And he's in love with you too, even if neither of you is brave enough to admit it. Amara wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't come, because maybe Nia was right. Maybe somewhere between the contracts and the galas and the fights, something real had grown. The question was whether that something could survive outside the arrangement that had created it. The final event was a private dinner celebrating a business merger. Small, intimate, only the most important players invited. Amara wore a simple black dress, elegant but understated. This is it, the Mafia Boss said as they drove to the venue. After the night, the contract is fulfilled. I know. Have you thought about what comes next? I've thought about little else. And Amara turned to face him. I'm scared. This whole thing started as a transaction, but somewhere along the way, it became real. And I don't know if what feels real inside your world will survive outside it. There is no outside. This is my world. If you stay, it's yours too. That's what scares me. I'm not sure I want this to be my world forever. The admission hurt to say. The Mafia Boss's expression closed off, becoming the mask he wore in public. Then you should leave. Take your money. Start fresh. Is that what you want? What I want is irrelevant. This was always your choice. They arrived at the dinner. The evening proceeded with familiar rhythm. Conversations flowed. Deals were discussed. Amara played her part perfectly, the woman beside the most powerful man in the room. But something felt different, final, like an ending approaching whether she was ready or not. Near midnight, they stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The lights spread out below them like scattered stars. I don't want to lose you, the Mafia Boss said quietly. But I won't trap you either. If you need to leave, leave. What if I want to stay but differently? Not as an arrangement. Not as someone playing a role. As myself. He turned to face her. Who are you, Amara? Really, I'm still figuring that out. But I know I'm stronger than when we started. I know I can survive in your world. And I know... She paused, gathering courage. I know I don't want to walk away from you. Even though it scares you? Maybe because it scares me. He pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. Then stay. Figure out who you are. I'll wait. The contract ended on a Tuesday. Amara woke up in her own apartment. No event scheduled, no expectations hanging over her. She was free. The final payment had arrived. More money than she'd ever seen. Enough to start over anywhere, do anything. But freedom felt strange. Hello. Her phone rang. The Mafia Boss. Can we talk? They met at a small cafe, far from the usual haunts. No photographers. No society pages. Just two people and coffee. I've been thinking, he said, about what you said, about staying but differently. And I don't know how to do this. Relationships. I know business. I know transactions. I don't know this. Amara smiled despite herself. Neither do I. We'd be learning together. That could be messy. Probably. People will talk. They'll say you're using me or I'm keeping you. They'll never believe it's real. Do you care what they think? He considered. No, not about this. Then maybe that's where we start. Not caring what they think. Just being. It sounded simple. It probably wasn't. But sitting across from him, Amara felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. So what now? She asked. Now we start over. No contract. No timeline. Just two people seeing where this goes. That's terrifying. Yes, he agreed. But maybe the best things are... They talked for hours. About his childhood. Her dreams. The things they'd never shared during the arrangement. He told her about the weight of his responsibilities. The loneliness of power. She told him about growing up with nothing. Fighting for everything. Learning to be invisible. You're not invisible anymore, he said. No, I'm not sure who I am now. Then figured out. I'll be here. The promise felt real. Not bound by contracts or money. Just choice. 6 months later, Amara stood in a different ballroom. Not as hired companion. Not as someone playing a role. As herself. She'd used part of the money to go back to school. Business management. She wanted to understand the world she'd been dropped into. Wanted to navigate it on her own terms. The Mafia Boss was beside her, but differently now. They'd learned each other without the arrangement between them. Learned what was real and what had been performance. Turned out most of it was real. Victoria was there too, at the far end of the room. She'd rebuilt some of her social standing, but carefully avoided Amara. They'd never be friends, but they'd reached a sort of cold peace. You look different, Nia said, appearing with champagne. She'd become part of Amara's new world too, bridging old life and new. Different how? Like you belong here. Not because someone chose you, because you chose yourself. Amara smiled. That felt right. She'd been chosen, yes. But more importantly, she'd chosen back. Chosen to stay. Chosen to fight. Chosen to become someone who could stand in rooms full of power and not just survive but thrive. The Mafia Boss caught her eye from across the room. He smiled, that real smile that transformed his serious face. She smiled back. So, Nia said, nudging her, think you'll marry him? I don't know. Maybe. Someday. That's not a no. It's not a yes either. It's just, we're figuring it out. Fair enough. Later, as the event wound down, the Mafia Boss pulled Amara onto an empty balcony. What are you thinking? He asked. That a year ago, I was serving champagne at events like this. Now I'm attending them. Dating you. Going to school. Living a completely different life. Regret any of it? She considered. The jealousy, the attacks, the fear, the uncertainty. No, all of it made me stronger. Made me who I am. And who are you, Amara? She'd been asked that question before. Back then, she hadn't known how to answer. Now she did. I'm someone who took a risk. Someone who survived a war I didn't start. Someone who learned that being chosen is nice. But choosing yourself is better. She looked at him. I'm someone who's still learning. Still growing. Still figuring it out. Good, he said, pulling her close. Because I like who you're becoming. Even though it's messy. Especially because it's messy. They stood together, looking out at the city lights. The same view from a year ago, but everything had changed. Amara had changed. She wasn't a scared waitress anymore. wasn't the woman playing a role. She was herself fully and completely, strong enough to stand beside power without being consumed by it, brave enough to choose love even when it terrified her. The most dangerous choice isn't who you fight, she realized. It's who you stand beside, who you trust, who you let see the real you. She'd made that choice. And despite everything, the jealousy, the war, the chaos, it was the right one. Not because it was easy, because it was real. And real, messy, complicated, beautiful real was worth fighting for.
Remember, loyalty builds empires. Betrayal destroys them. Choose power wisely. The underworld never forgets. The Boss Chronicle. Like and subscribe.